Hey y'all, welcome back to the Just Gotta Make It podcast. My name is Della. This is Coach Meyer. We're gonna call you Coach Meyer on the podcast.
That's fine.
Do the kids call you Coach Meyer? Or they call you
Yeah.
Coach Chris?
Most of them call Coach Meyer.
Okay, guys, I am currently in the process of transitioning out of my role as a young adult pastor at our church, and that is really tough, and it's been something that I've been dealing with for a while. And Meyer just had a transition not too long ago from trucking to a whole new school and a whole new team, and this is just something that I wanted to talk about because I feel like people are always like, man, y'all are so bold. Y'all are so brave. Like, and I get it, right? And really, I don't even, sometimes I'm like, if you only knew, like, sometimes it's hard. Most times it's hard.
Yeah.
But we've committed our life to not being addicted to comfort. And so I feel like we have some things to say on when to know when to leave, whether that's your job, your family, your hometown, not your fam, like, don't be leaving your wife or your husband, but you know what I mean? Like, sometimes some people need to leave their nuclear family, with the family you grew up in, when to know, you know, whatever it is that your current environment is in, like when to know when to leave, how to leave, and what to do after you leave. So we kind of want to walk y'all through that because it's just what's fresh on our hearts, and I think some people need to know that. So I just want to jump right in. I want to talk about how to know when to leave your current environment. So for you, like, what is off the bat like a sign where you're like, okay, and I want to say this too. Neither of us are jumpers. Like, well, I'm a jumper as far as like, but I've been where we are for the last 6 years. Yeah. Meyer was where he was for the last 8 years. About 8 years. Yeah. So we aren't like flippantly making these decisions. We really seek the Lord. We aren't scared to make the decisions, but we really do try to seek the Lord in what He's calling us to do. Because I know some people are like, man, this ain't serving me no more. And we're going to talk about that. Because that's not the attitude we have. Yeah. So what is one of the first things you think about when it comes to, okay, there needs to be an environment shift?
One thing that comes to mind is, are you being stifled? So if the Lord has put on your heart, this is your desire to move up in the ranks, or to take on a particular position, but you know where you at, they're not allowing you to elevate, or they see less of you, then it may be time to transition.
Yeah, because one thing I was thinking about when I was thinking about this too is it may be that, listen, I believe that there's an environment for everybody in which they can excel. And so it may be that in that current environment, they don't see your giftings, they don't see your worth. And so it is time to bounce. You don't need to stay there. I see so many people lose confidence because they stayed in the wrong environment for too long. Yeah. And that breaks my heart. Because I'm literally watching their confidence chip away, and they start to think like what the person thinks about them is truth, and it's not truth. It may be truth in that environment that person controls, but it's not overall truth.
True. Oh, this must be the Holy Spirit. So, for all my gardeners out there, farmers out there, for different crops, you're supposed to plant it in certain types of soil. Yeah. You're supposed to plant it in certain seasons of the year. So that goes back to the environment. Like, if the environment isn't right, then you're literally unable to grow. So if we just look at ourselves as like seeds, like,
and the Bible uses similar,
yeah. So like, you may grow in this type of soil, but you only capped off at this size, or your fruit won't be as sweet. You know what I'm saying? But if you get in the right soil, during the right time, during the right environment, then your potential is greater.
No, that's good. And even when you said the right season, like, that's everything. Because I think too, sometimes we get in environments and we're like, well, maybe that environment was just too big for me. But if you were in that environment in a different season, then, you know, because sometimes God may call you to circle back. Yeah. But it's a whole different timing and a whole different season. Yeah. I think another way to know, like, okay, it's time to go, is if you become really, really negative. Because, and you may be justified in your negativity, But whether God is calling you to leave or not, like, they don't deserve your negativity, and you don't deserve your negativity, because then, like, if you stay in the wrong environment for too long, and a lot of times it's the wrong environment because it is negative. Like, the environment is negative sometimes, and so then you will start to take that on, and then the way you do one thing is how you do all things, and so you'll find that stuff that didn't even bother you now is bothering you. Like, when you leave work, everything making you angry.
Like, come on now.
Yeah, like it's not that deep, and so I think that's a big one.
Another point is, if to reach the next level in that job, occupation, business, or whatever, requires you to sacrifice something that you are not willing to give up, then it's time to transition.
Okay, give an example of that.
For example, trucking. So I realized, okay, things were starting to get better. Things were starting to pick up. But in order for me to sustain the business to the level that I wanted to, it was going to require me to be gone more. It was going to require me to be gone for a week, 2. And so, the money would been straight. But on the flip side, I would have sacrificed my family, my time with y'all. And I wasn't willing to do that. So I knew, okay, cool. So it's time for me to transition out. Because in order for me to maximize potential, because if you anywhere where you just cool with being like, if you somewhere and your potential is here and you can't reach that potential due to something, then it's time to move.
And I think a lot of people are being manipulated to stay in their current environment, and you don't even realize it. So here's what I mean by that. Be very careful about people telling you in your current environment, you're doing such a great job. You're so phenomenal. What else? Great job. What else do people say? These like generic affirmations.
Yeah.
Be very, and I'm really not trying to make this video negative. I'm trying to help you out. I'm trying to let you inside the minds of people who could be manipulating and controlling your current circumstance. Turn off your ears and turn on your eyes. Like, if they saying something different than what they're doing, it's time to bounce.
Yeah.
Like, it's time to go. Because if it's like you're doing an amazing job, but then you see that Susie is getting promoted, Susie is getting all the opportunities, you may be doing an amazing job, but you're not a good fit for the environment.
Yeah.
Again, it's nothing to get mad about.
Yeah.
Switch it up.
Yeah.
Like, that's Susie's ground. That's Susie's, you know what I mean? And I think another thing too is, if someone is in control of your future, that maybe is is not your biggest fan, or like, you know what I mean? Like, you have some conflict with, or now don't get me wrong, like, the Lord can make your enemies your footstool, but however, if you know that something, like if a business belongs to somebody who cannot stand you, and you're there trying to force promotion, you fighting with people, you and I, they ain't giving me what I deserve, you're not going to win that battle.
No.
And you don't want to win that battle. Because you're fighting to get next to people who cannot stand you. Like, that's not cool.
Also, if you're uncomfortable in the environment, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's time to transition. Because discomfort isn't always an indication of it's time to bounce. So, just like a teenager growing or a person going through puberty, sometimes you have like knee pains and elbow pains simply because your body is growing. So discomfort isn't always an indication of transition, but it could mean that you need to lean into it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And grow.
Yeah. Were you finished?
Go ahead.
I think the leaning in versus leaving is always the question, because God could be calling you to lean in, like you said, and take more discomfort. So an example is like with us building up my speaking business and things like that. I think the temptation is, it's hard right now, or we don't see the fruit that we saw that God is going to give us right now, so let's bounce, right? Or versus So a discomfort in a space that you're supposed to leave could be like you said, it's not lining up with my morals. It's not lining up with the vision I have for my family. Those are two different discomforts, and that is going to tell you whether to lean in or to leave. I would say if the discomfort is just your flesh, like your fleshly desires, I would say oftentimes that means to lean in. Like if it's postponing something like a blessing that you know the Lord said he was going to give you, I would say that's time to lean in. However, if it's holding you back, it all goes back to vision. Like if it's holding you back from going back to the vision, like if you have this vision, you know what the Lord spoke to you, then you can't let any environment stop you from what he promised you and going after what he told you. Because regardless of what man thinks of you, your Father is the King of all kings, and he has told you what he thinks of you. And so you really have to hold that on. And that's easier said than done, because you're constantly interacting with these humans, and they're constantly telling you what's not good enough for them, or trying to change your image, or trying to change all these things about you. But if you would just shift in the right environment, you could find like, I'm everything these people were looking for. You know what I mean? And that's a whole different energy.
And you gain self-confidence and self-worth when you're in the right environment.
Yeah, because you get appreciated.
Yeah, so you realize, so affirmation, giving the right amount. If you give too much affirmation, then it doesn't help you. But people acknowledging your talents, it gives you that extra confidence.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, but and it has to be confirmation, because you got to have the confidence before, and that's how you know it's time to bounce out of this. Like I said, this environment, if your confidence starts to lower, but you gotta have the confidence first, because when you do get in the right environment, it's confirmation. It's like, oh, okay, so they see what I saw in me. They see what people who are on my team saw in me, and so those begin to line up, and you're like, okay, this is what it feels like to be appreciated. Like this is what it feels like to be affirmed. And a lot of times the right environment is all about the people. It's all about the people. You could be doing the exact same job in a completely different environment, but those people are aligned with you, and that feels so good. Like it just feels so good. You know, like to finally be in a room with people with similar mindsets, similar makeup, that feels good. That's the blessing of being in the right environment. And I don't want to sound repetitive, but like just the stunted growth, it is not worth it. It's not worth it. And I think a reason why people stay in the wrong environment is because of pay. Let's say wrong or right. The wrong environment.
The wrong environment.
Is because of pay.
Yeah.
Because you're so... Actually, I heard this on a podcast. It was like the middle class is the only class that is struggling. Because those in poverty, like, they're good with whatever is given to them. Right? And I'm talking about deep poverty.
Not
right?
everybody. But
not everybody. No, but that there was just saying, like, that's the poverty mindset, right? And then the wealthy, they're not afraid to risk it all because they know they can get it back, right? They have that confidence. But the middle class, we so scared to lose this false sense of security that we have, that we're not willing to lay it on the table. And one thing is like, no, I will lay it on the table if it means that I'm getting closer to what it is that God is calling me to do. There is no amount of money that can buy my life, you know what I mean? Like feeling like, okay, I'm in alignment with what God is calling me to do. There ain't no amount of money. Or to steal my peace, or to, you know what I mean, steal my joy. Or like you said, like your family or your relationship. There's some of y'all are so, all of the pain in your marriage is coming from you working in the wrong environment.
Yeah.
All of it.
Or you not willing to let go of a comfort so that your life can be more peaceful.
What do you mean?
The comfort of, okay, so yeah, I like making this amount of money, but if you take a little pay cut or move to a more modest home, then maybe your life would be more balanced.
I mean, because that's an environment shift too. Like your home, like that could be an environment shift. Or I think about I think about how Jesus couldn't perform miracles in his own hometown.
Yeah.
Some of y'all aren't in your literal hometown, but you're in places where they think that they made you. Like they literally think they made you.
Yeah.
And if somebody thinks that they made you, there is really nothing you can do there to impress them.
Or you're from this place, you're from XYZ.
Yep.
So this is only your capability.
Right.
Because you're from here.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I think that's giving y'all some really good, examples of when to know when it's time to leave. And if let us know in the comments, when did you know, okay, it's time for me to leave my current environment? Because you might help somebody out. You give a specific example or whatever when you knew God was saying, now you have the green light to go. I want to talk about how to leave, because knowing when to leave, knowing how to leave is as important as knowing when to leave. Yeah. Because what you're not gonna do is flick everybody off and say like, bye suckers, or you're not gonna just quit on the spot. Like, we're not gonna do that. We're not gonna do that. How you leave is so important. You want to leave with honor. You want to leave with honor. And one thing I say is, in some environments that God has called me out of, I will say, I don't know how to stay with honor, but I surely can leave with honor. And that is so important, because one, and that's another point. Don't leave until you're healed. Okay. I don't know. This is hard, because on one end, I'm like, don't stay too long that you just get negative, but don't leave until you're healed. And what I mean by that is, depending on what you're leaving, like what the situation is, you should look back and say, you should be sad. You should be able to say like, man, I'm going to miss so-and-so. I'm going to miss so-and-so. Because you don't want to leave a season with anger and all these things in your heart, because your next season I just don't feel like it's going to be blessed. Like, I don't feel like you can birth something new with all of that in your heart. You know what I mean? And if you can, leave on a high note. So like, for example, I guess if you're coaching, try to leave on a winning season. Don't run, because that's that lean in versus, leave. Because
you leave and go to another school. Like, why you sit there still trying to get the kids recruited?
Yes, like, don't leave stuff hanging.
Forget y'all. Like, still do what you normally would have done.
Yeah.
Until it's time up.
Because leaving well is so hard. It's so hard to not just check out before before you officially leave. So try to lean in as much as possible. It's very, very hard. Human psychology, I guess. A thing is about to end. So it's just difficult. But I think, heal. Do the work. Pray. Ask God, any unforgiveness I have in my heart, take it out of my heart, because you just don't want to leave with that energy. And I would say count your blessings from that season, because you may have gained lifelong friendships. You may need to go back, and you may need a letter of recommendation. You may be a business owner one day, and you want people to leave you decently and in order. And I would say if there's anything that went down that was like real traumatic or something like that, I would just say like maybe get some counseling. But don't be putting people's business on the street, like as much as your ability. I'm not saying hold it all in to the point where you get sick, but I am saying seek counseling, because if somebody's reputation, if somebody is really as evil as you think they are, you never have to tell people about it. They will always show themselves evil. Like, that's what I always tell people. You don't ever have to tell somebody like, oh, this person sucks, like really bad. Like, they will reveal themselves as a person that sucks. You ain't got to do all that. Okay, so before we wrap this up, once you get in that new environment, I think that's important. That's another important stage too. It's like how you conduct yourself in this new place, because one, you don't want to be bringing in the hurt and stuff from your last situation. That's why I said again, make sure you go ahead and heal before you, because you could come to your, like, some people go from place to place to place, and the same issue is at every place. And I'm like, well, honey, there's a common denominator. And there's just so many blessings, like we said, about being in this new environment, but there is an adjustment period. And I remember, like, when Myra went to a new school, and you had some growing pains and some adjustment.
It was just different. So I'm like, okay, I'm not used to this. Okay, so I gotta adjust. But it's the mindset, like, you gotta come in like, okay, I may know X, Y, and Z, but you gotta come in willing to serve, being humble, because you don't know everything. So come in just with that mindset, then you'll be able to absorb more and be a sponge.
Yeah.
Be ready to
Don't
learn.
come in ready to give orders. That's so annoying. Like when someone comes in and they're like, yes, you have a fresh eye. I would say pull out your note section on your phone and maybe make notes of some of the things you notice, because that is an advantage of being new, is that you do see things that maybe other people have become blind to. But don't be there ready to just take action and take control. And I would say even for like similar to like someone in my situation where maybe you're leaving one environment and then you're walking into the unknown, I would say press into the Lord, like, because that's in the middle of uncertainty. That's when I feel like if you're intentional, you can hear God's voice so loud. And that's another point. When you're in your new environment, I would say, or even if you're in between two environments, you need to like quiet down the noise. That is the blessing of going from fast paced life, you know, maybe in a known environment, you know everybody, to now you're in this new environment. You're the new kid on the block, but there's some sweet like space in the in between.
For sure. And
I'm looking forward to that space, even just with us, like in our recent transition. And so I'm looking forward to like, okay, now that our calendars are gonna drastically like they're gonna drastically shrink down just with all of the we just won't have as many occasions and stuff to go to, and I'm looking forward to that. I really am, because I know, at least for me, when I quiet my life down, I can just hear God a lot more. And and I'm in that season where I need to hear God a lot more. Well, you went through that too. Even when you're in a new environment, you don't know anybody and nobody knows you.
Yeah.
So you probably have a lot less interactions and stuff at school.
Yeah.
But that's a blessing. It can be hard, but it's also a blessing.
It's different. It's like, but I wasn't tripping off of it, because it gave me time to like get used to the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think understanding that God, you're in a new environment and God is about to do a new thing.
For sure.
I think just having and keeping that belief, because you can really pull your old trauma from your old place to your new place. And God is like, I am trying to take you higher, but you still stuck on that. So again, it goes back to that healing. Like if you're leaving, let's say you're leaving your hometown and you're going to this new place, you could literally be closed off to people because the last people in your hometown, they hurt you. But God is going to use people in this new season to take you where he needs you to go. But you blocked off to people. And I know it's easier said than done. Like, you know, and you could be doing it unconsciously, not even realizing that you're doing it. But yeah, that's it, y'all. We just wanted, I know this one, I don't know if it's brief or not, whatever. We'll see. It's late. Our kids are in the bed. But I did want to get on here, and I really wanted to talk to you guys about the environment and when to know how to shift. And just rebuke fear. Like everybody's talking about how bold we are and how brave we are and stuff, and I'm literally confused. Like I guess because we're about this life, and it doesn't mean that we don't like suffer because of it. Like we go without.
Some days we like, man, I don't know.
Yeah, the easier route seems more attractive.
It's gonna work.
Yep.
Why did I do this? But then we have a person, because when Della's down, I'm like, you know, lock in, like focus on what you can control. Like when I have my down days, she's like, yeah, but you know what? Lean into what God told you. So having that person that can like, you know, pick you up.
And if you're not married, then that's again community. You need community. And you know, I would rather have a harder life pursuing the things that God's called me to do.
Yes.
Than a comfortable. And I say comfortable because when you doing something and you know God told you to go and you're not going, you're not really comfortable. Like there's something nagging in the back of your head. You're not at peace. You're not at peace. And I would rather truly be at peace, even if the circumstances around me are harder, because I know, listen, I'm moving and grooving in obedience with God. And the footsteps may not make sense. And people may think you're crazy, and they're going to say, why are you doing this? You could be doing X, Y, Z, or you could have all this. And you're like, well, you know what? God didn't speak to you. He spoke to me. And you may get to the point where you got to stop explaining stuff to people, like, you know, and guard your heart, because they don't get it anyways. They not going to get it. So you're wasting your breath trying to explain it to them, and you don't owe nothing to them. You owe to yourself to get in a healthy environment so you can thrive and grow and do the things that God is calling you to do. And it's worth it every time. Every time I will put my money on the table and do it. Every time. And it gets easier. It's not necessarily that what's happening is getting easier, But the faith journey following God gets
Yeah.
easier because we're like, okay, bet we've seen this before.
Yeah.
God, we've seen you move. We've seen you do it again and again.
It's like
and we
training.
believe it. It is. It is.
It's like working out. It's like training.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we love you guys, and we will see y'all in our next video.